new true crime podcast you need to hear to believe.
I need police right now. I've just started broken into my house.
2 men dead at the hands of a teenager and almost every moment recorded.
Please, don't move.
Put the knife down.
I was just trying to help her.
What happened at Alba Beach was as horrific as it was baffling.
There's so much contradiction. We should know more than we know.
I'm Adam Hegarty. I'll take you inside one of the country's most confusing investigations in this exclusive 60 Minutes podcast.
Ambulance, police, inquest, a domino effect of failures. It's killing us.
I'm not a police officer anymore. I can speak more freely.
Alba Beach, death at the door, wherever you get your podcasts.
The Australian Financial Review.
When it comes to negotiating a deal, how you handle yourself can go a long way.
People talk about having to be tough and dogmatic and, that person's, they're bull at a gate, they're a great negotiator, they're tough, they're ruthless. Well, I find it a massive turn-off, to be quite frank.
Welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success, failure, and the lessons learnt along the way. I'm your host, Sally Patten, and my guest today is Pete Findlay, the Chief Executive of Bega Group, the food and drinks company whose brands include Vegemite and peanut butter, Farmers Union yogurt, Dairy Farmers milk, and of course, Bega cheese. Peter, before we start, I have to ask, are you a Vegemite man or a peanut butter man?
Oh, both. Peanut butter in my smoothie and Vegemite on my toast.
It would be hard to find a more quintessential Australian food than Vegemite. Do you feel a sense of responsibility being in charge of these iconic and much-loved brands?
Huge. We've got 4 brands that are over 100 years old and, big brands. So Vegemite's obviously very well known. Dairy Farmers is a massive brand. Farmers Union is a significant brand and Bega is a significant brand, and all of them are over 100 years old, and we think they're a really important part of the Australian heritage. Our business itself, Bega Group, is 126 years old this year, and so very much part of my role is handing the business and the brands over to my successor in a better place than what I found them.
And don't go messing with the Vegemite recipe.
Never go messing with the Vegemite recipe. We do not touch that.
All right, Pete, we better get into it. We've only got 15 minutes, so I'm going to start the clock right now. And my first question is about your morning routine. What time do you get up? What happens?
I usually rise about 5, a bit after 5 o'clock, and I usually try and do a couple of hours of exercise. Often entails a walk. So I try and walk sort of 70 to 80 kilometres a week, as much for my mental health as physical health.
So have you always been a walker?
No. Walking's something I've taken up in my older years. I've always enjoyed exercise in the morning though. So I used to row a lot as a junior rower and as a masters rower. But these days I walk with my travel commitments. I can usually get up anywhere in Australia or around the world and go for a nice walk and think about the day and how I'm going to approach it. I think it's really important that, I show up in the right way at work. And so I think about, my calendar, some of the meetings I'll be going into, some of the things that will trigger me, some of the things I'll carry some bias into. And if I can reflect on that, then there's a better chance of me turning up in a better place to get the best out of that meeting and the best out of the team around me. So I find that walk really balances me and sets me up for a better day than if I don't have it.
Interesting. And what biases of your own do you have to watch out for?
Oh, well, the older you get, the more you head into a meeting with a preconceived plan or view of the world. And, one of my favourite sayings is seek to understand before you can be understood. Just to take a bit of time, come into a meeting with an open mind.
And I have to ask, what does the CEO of a producer of dairy products and peanut butter and Vegemite eat for breakfast?
I actually don't eat breakfast.
Right, okay. Tell me about that.
Sometimes on a Sunday I'll have some Vegemite on my toast, but usually 4 or 5 coffees in the morning and then lunch and dinner. Sometimes I'll have a breakfast meal for lunch.
So 4 to 5 coffees. That sounds like you're quite caffeinated by lunchtime.
Reasonably. But obviously we make some terrific coffee products. So I usually get to the fridge and slam down a high protein iced coffee.
Is protein something that you really think about? Protein products at the moment are very popular.
It's not just protein, Sally. So what we're seeing is a transformation in food and how it interacts with our lifestyle. in previous generations, people were always worried about their lifespan. How do I go from living from 65 to 85, 85 to maybe 90? Now it's very much around not so much lifespan, but health span. So how can I have the best lifestyle for as long as I can? And so people are consuming products that they think will help them to enable that.
So you talked about protein. How many grams of protein do you have?
I try and have about 2 grams for each kilogram. So that's about 160, 170 grams of protein a day. And then I sort of mix that within my calorie input. So probably over-index slightly on protein, but I'm trying to keep my strength up so I can keep up with my 4 young adult sons.
Okay, sounds good. I'll up my protein intake.
Be careful.
Thank you for the advice. So my next question is about your career.
Yeah.
Was there a pivotal moment in your career that somehow changed the trajectory of what you were doing? It might have been a promotion or a project that you worked on.
I'd say there's probably 4 or 5 moments that sort of stand out, but they're all sort of aligned with one key thing, and that's having someone who you worked for believe in you. And so, I think that I was really fortunate along the way to have 4 or 5, maybe 6 people who really believed in me at pivotal moments and gave me scope and confidence to really stretch myself and extend myself. You do go through your career where there are people who don't believe in you or who are quite transactional about the relationship you might have with them. But when you find someone, particularly someone who you're reporting to or who is a superior who believes in you and brings out the best in you and wants you to be your best, I think that's essential. And I can think back to half a dozen moments when someone put me into a job or gave me a project or gave me a role that I probably wasn't quite ready for, but because they believed in me and my fundamental skills and what I could bring to the table, it forced me to extend myself. And without those moments, you just don't get that leg up in your career.
And can you tell me about one of those people who's really believed in you?
I can. So the very first person was a gentleman called Peter Griffiths, who was a partner at KPMG. I was introduced to him in a lift by someone else. I'd only been at KPMG for a couple of years, and he plucked me out of audit and assurance and took me across into KPMG's consulting arm to do a 5-day project at Bonlac. And 5 years later, I left his side. So he was fantastic. He believed in me, gave me accelerated promotion, allowed me to do lots of different projects and took me from a place where I was okay to a place where I could thrive.
So what did you say to him in the lift that made him want to pluck you and put you into a different business?
I had this job at Bonlac, and because I had an interest in dairy all the way back then, I sort of pricked up my ears and asked him a couple of questions about it. And he said, well, what are you doing this week? And I said, well, I'm not due out on another engagement for a little while. I've got this week spare. He said, well, come and work for me. And so I did some work with him for the week, and by the end of the week, he said, I'm really keen for you to stay. And he took me along with him and threw me in the deep end on a number of occasions, which was terrific for me.
Interesting. So what do you think the lesson was there? To talk to as many people in the lift or in the office as possible, and you just never know who you're going to come across?
Just be curious, ask questions, engage, and you'll never know when your curiosity might lead to something.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. I love that. Okay, my next question is about career advice. What's the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
I have a plan, have a destination with milestones, and then understand your own gaps that are preventing you from getting there. And that takes, once again, if you're working with good people, they'll give you that feedback in a positive way. So be curious about how you can get better and understand your gaps and your blind spots.
Okay, so tell me about the 30-year-old Pete. What was your plan at the age of 30 and what were your gaps then?
So I got my first finance director role at 31 and I wanted to go on and build a career through the CFO path. Quite transactional, was not curious enough about what other people had to say, did not necessarily inspire those who worked for me, and was more about IQ than EQ. As I've got a little bit older, it's about the EQ and understanding what brings people together, whether that's a mission or a vision or a purpose. Developing purpose, I think, that people can attach onto. So I didn't understand any of that. And I was probably a little bit quick to jump to conclusions. You look back on yourself at 30 and you wish you could have accelerated your development. So I think in my early 50s, I'm a little bit more balanced than I was at 30.
So you talked about having a plan. When did you decide that you wanted to be a CEO?
I didn't.
That wasn't part of the plan.
No, I always envisaged that I'd continue through the CFO path and just try and be the best CFO I could be, try and be a terrific team member, try and be a great co-pilot with people, bring out the best in a C-suite team, help my CEO be the best they could be, and help sort of, drive a vision for a business aligned around our purpose. And I was fortunate enough that my chairman believed in me and decided to give me a chance at being the CEO of Bega. And I've certainly enjoyed the last 3 years, and hopefully our results have demonstrated that as a team we've been able to achieve most of the things we've set out to achieve.
Now, Pete, we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, you pick the questions. I'll see you soon.
A new true crime podcast you need to hear to believe.
I need police right now. I'm just started broken into my house.
2 men dead at the hands of a teenager, and almost every moment recorded.
Please, don't move.
Put the knife down.
I was just trying to help her.
What happened at Alva Beach was as horrific as it was baffling.
There's so much contradiction. We should know more than we know.
I'm Adam Hegarty. I'll take you inside one of the country's most confusing investigations in this exclusive 60 Minutes podcast.
Ambulance, police, inquest, a domino effect of failures. It's killing us.
I'm not a police officer anymore. I can speak more freely.
Alva Beach, death at the door, wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Pete Findlay, the Chief Executive of Bega Group. Now, Pete, for this next section, I would ordinarily ask you to pick out some questions from our somewhat scruffy cardboard box. But because you're in Melbourne and I'm in Sydney, you'll have to trust me to pick out questions on your behalf. Are you ready to get started?
Well, I think I'm ready, Sally. I'll tell you in about 10 minutes.
Okay, let's go. What is the most common piece of work or life advice that you actually think is BS, or, in other words, crap?
I think there's quite a few things I think are crap. I don't like it when people try and assert themselves. People talk about having to be tough and dogmatic and, that person's, they're bull at a gate, they're a great negotiator, they're tough, they're ruthless. We should look up to and aspire to be like that. I find, when you're negotiating with people who try and be dominant or have an alpha sort of persona, some people think that that's the way to get business done. I find it a massive turn-off, to be quite frank. And I just find it destructive to any conducive relationship or mutually beneficial relationship, which to me is what business is about. So I've got to be tough. I've got to be a killer. I just think that that's so archaic. And certainly I don't encourage it within the Bega Group across all of our employees. I've just got no time for it.
So how do you then achieve balance between, and I take your point, not being needlessly tough, but at the same time you don't really want to be a walkover, because then the negotiation is also not going to go very well? No,
agreed. So when we talk about tough, at Bega we like to be very accountable. So we talk about accountability, and we talk about holding the line on decisions. We talk about doing the right thing for the company, living our purpose and our values, which are absolutely, we are unashamedly ambitious as an organisation. We set ourselves very hard goals, but we enter everything with respect. And you can have an extremely robust debate or negotiation with someone without turning it into a dogmatic or a dominant position or rude position. And I just think that there's a way to do business to achieve outcomes, to stick to your standards, that can be encompassed with courtesy and respect.
All right, I'll have another fish. How do you manage conflict, which you must come up against fairly regularly, I imagine?
Well, the first thing about conflict is do it calmly. And we like debate, and we like respectful questioning and curiosity, and we like to challenge, respectful challenge, and that sort of comes within the banner of conflict. I think it's really important to have an environment where people can have a say, they can push back, they can challenge, they can work to get the best result. Within conflict, when you've got to give bad news, unfortunately we've done some significant restructures in our business over the last 12 months. We've closed 3 factories, and we've had to remove 450 jobs from our organisation. And that's a really difficult message to give. It's necessary for the full benefit of the company, which is growing and moving forward. But you need to understand, the people that where they're going to be positioned, and you need to understand the severity of the message you're giving, and you need to provide them with the right level of empathy and support that can get them through that process. So, certainly in my role, having to give that message, which I gave personally to those 450 people, they're relying on you to provide them with a livelihood or a way to earn their living, and you failed them. And so it's really important that you help them through that process and you take that journey with them emotionally as well as physically, so providing them with all the benefits they need, but you're emotionally checking in on them and trying to support them. So they're the decisions you have to make in my role. And they're the decisions you have to front and be present for, but you never ever lose sight of your responsibility to those people and the empathy that you need to give to them and the support you need to give to them.
So do you make sure that they're given training and help to get other jobs?
Yeah, we've run job fairs, we've run training, we've run re-employment programs, we've worked with a number of government authorities to try and rehouse people in other employment. We've worked with other employers in those regions, and over a period of 12 to 18 months, we've tried to make that transition for those people, as best we can. We've released 150 jobs from Queensland in closing down 2 facilities there. We've just about got everyone redeployed in new roles. And a lot of those people have gone into new roles with new training that we've paid for through local TAFE programs. So that's something I'm really proud of, the way we've been able to handle that. With another factory we're closing in Northern Victoria, we're working through that at the moment. That's a bit harder, but we're continuing to work with local government and with those people to get them into new roles. And then the other side of it, which is the good side, is that we're reinvesting in other facilities where we're hiring more people, and we're continuing to invest in those communities and help those regional communities. So, which is sort of what we're about. But without making those tough decisions, you can't push the business forward for the benefit of the whole group.
All right, time for another question, Pete. What are your favourite interview questions when hiring somebody?
I've got a couple of questions. One, what's going to get them up out of bed each day to come to work? Don't tell me it's about earning a living or paying the bills. What means something to you within our organisation that's greater than the technicalities of the job, the salary, or even some of the people you work with? What's the higher purpose that you can attach to within our organisation?
So if I asked you that question, what would you say?
Well, I come from 5 generations of dairy farmers. And I believe in the industry, and I believe in agriculture in Australia, and I believe in building a great Australian food business. And I believe in providing a future for those farming communities and for the people who work in our factories and for the people who make our product. And, we haven't got many large Australian-owned food businesses left. And so I come to work each day because I think I'm championing Australian manufacturing and Australian food manufacturing ownership. And I want to create a great Australian food business that has a footprint across, the Pan-Asian region. So that's what gets me out of bed each day.
And some of the other favourite interview questions then?
There's a great question that my chairman asked me, and he said, you've just had a big win at work and you want to go out and celebrate with the team. Where do you go?
Interesting. And what's the subtext of that question?
So you need to make a decision, where would you go? And my favourite answer to that question is, there's lots of answers. My favourite answer is, you ask the team where they want to go. So how do we celebrate together? But how do you understand what your people are wanting in a moment like that? And I think that's really important.
So do you ask that question yourself?
I do, yeah.
Good question. All right, on that note, Pete, I've now got one final question for you, which is, if for some reason you weren't the chief executive of Bega Group, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? Well, one of my favourite jobs, Sally, was as a university student. I used to coach sport. I used to coach rowing, and I loved it. So if I wasn't doing my role, I would probably love to be coaching or running a sporting program. I love coaching. I think coaching is a wonderful way for you to develop skills that I still use today. So any young people out there, I encourage them to go and try and coach a sporting team. It's such good training for later on in life to try and get someone to be better, try and get them to improve and to try and motivate them. But I loved doing that when I was younger, and I could quite easily see myself doing that when I've finished doing this job.
Okay, so coaching a rowing team would be your...
Probably. That's about the only thing I'm qualified to coach at, Sally. So some poor rowing team might get me as their coach in the future.
Okay, I'm sure it won't be a poor rowing team. It'll be a very successful, highly successful rowing team. It's been an absolute delight talking to you. Pete, thank you so much for allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Sally.
And thank you to everyone for listening. This is our last episode of 15 Minutes with the Boss for 2025. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps others to find us. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. You can subscribe to the Financial Review at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast is hosted by me, Sally Patten, produced and edited by Iona Rennie. Head of audio is Alex Gao, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini. We'll be back on January the 27th with more from our top leaders. Until then, happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
The Australian Financial Review.
A new true crime podcast you need to hear to believe.
I need police right now. I've just stabbed and broken into my house.
2 men dead at the hands of a teenager, and almost every moment recorded.
Please, don't move.
Put the knife down.
I was just trying to help her.
What happened at Alba Beach was as horrific as it was baffling.
There's so much contradiction. We should know more than we know.
I'm Adam Hegarty. I'll take you inside one of the country's most confusing investigations in this exclusive 60 Minutes podcast.
Ambulance, police, inquest, a domino effect of failures. It's killing us.
I'm not a police officer anymore. I can speak more freely.
Alba Beach, Death at the Door, wherever you get your podcasts.